The morning it finally happened, Mom had just come home from a brutal 12-hour hospital shift. She was exhausted, her eyes red, her hair still tucked under the fading imprint of her scrub cap. All she wanted was to pull into our assigned parking spot, our legally assigned, clearly numbered, paid-for spot, and walk inside to sleep. But instead, right there in the middle of our space, sat the same shiny black sedan that had been stealing our spot every single day for almost a month. Its headlights were still warm, like the neighbor had just parked and strutted away without a single thought. Mom slammed her palms onto the steering wheel, her breath breaking. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. Then she just sat there, her forehead dropping against the steering wheel. She wasn't angry. She was done. Exhausted. Broken. And that was the moment everything changed. Because Grandpa was on the porch, watching the whole thing unfold. He slowly pushed himself up from his old rocking chair, the one that creaked louder than his knees, and stared at the stolen spot like it was a personal insult. Grandpa didn't get mad often. But when he did, it wasn't loud, it was quiet. Cold. Calculated. He walked toward Mom's car, tapped lightly on her window, and said with the calmest, most dangerous voice I'd ever heard, "Sweetheart, get out of the car." Mom wiped her eyes, confused. "Dad, it's fine, I'll just park on the street." "No," he interrupted. "They had their fun. Now it's my turn." He glared at the neighbor's sedan like he was sizing it up for a fight. Then, without another word, he turned around and walked toward the backyard. At first we thought he was just going inside to cool off. But then we heard it, this deep, earth-shaking rumble that vibrated through the ground like a dinosaur waking up. Mom looked at me. I looked at her. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh yes," I whispered back. Grandpa emerged from behind the house, climbing into his old 1976 Massey Ferguson tractor, the massive red beast he only brought out for emergencies or chaos. He fired the engine again, and a thick cloud of diesel smoke puffed into the air as if announcing, "Justice has clocked in." Grandpa gripped the wheel, smirked at us, and said, "If they want to play games with parking, let's play." And just like that, the real story began. The funny thing was, this parking spot was never supposed to be a big deal. Every unit in our complex had one assigned space, clearly numbered, painted bright white on clean asphalt. Ours was 37B, right next to the stairwell and easy for Mom to reach after her shifts. It wasn't special, it wasn't bigger than anyone else's, but it was ours. And the rules were simple: park in your own spot. But when the new neighbors moved in, a couple in their early 30s who acted like the entire complex was beneath them, they looked at our spot, looked at theirs on the far end, and simply decided ours was more convenient. So they took it. Day after day. Morning, evening, weekend, it didn't matter. Their sedan lived there like it paid the mortgage. At first, Dad tried being polite. He walked over one morning and tapped lightly on their door. The man answered with a lazy smirk, his robe half open, sunglasses on at 7 in the morning. "Hey," Dad said calmly, "just so you know, 37B belongs to us." Maybe there was confusion, but... "No confusion," the man interrupted. "Your spot's closer to our stairs. We'll only use it for a few days." A few days turned into 3 weeks. Mom wrote sticky notes in her careful handwriting. "Please do not park in our assigned space. Thank you." After the third one, the woman ripped it off their windshield in front of us and crumpled it dramatically before tossing it on the ground. "Looks ugly," she said. The note stopped. The HOA was our next hope. We emailed pictures and timestamps. We showed them how Mom had to walk from 3 streets away, sometimes at midnight, alone. The replies were always the same. "We will look into it." Then nothing. Later we learned why. The HOA vice president, a guy who bragged about his connections, was friends with the couple. They went to the same gym, same wine club, same boring places where boring people gather to act important. Meanwhile, Grandpa watched everything silently. He spent most mornings on the porch with his coffee, the steam curling from the mug as he stared at the parking lot like it was a battlefield he was surveying. Each time the neighbors stole our spot, He would sigh that deep, old man sigh that meant his patience was thinning like ice in spring. But he never acted. Not yet. The breaking point wasn't the spot being taken. It wasn't even the disrespect. It was the day Mom came home, so tired she could barely stand, only to find their sedan parked sideways, crooked, taking up not just our spot but half of the lane. Like they were daring someone to complain. Mom tried to squeeze past with her car, but the angle made it impossible. She just sat there, gripping the wheel with trembling hands. When she finally reversed, parked on the street, and walked home, she looked like she might collapse. Grandpa stood up, jaw tight, fists clenched. "That's it," he muttered. "I'm done watching." That night, while everyone else was asleep, Grandpa made preparations. He went to the barn behind our small yard, pulled the torp off his tractor, checked the oil, tightened bolts, and filled the tank until the smell of diesel drifted through the air. He didn't say a word to anyone. But the next morning when the sun rose, the tractor was positioned at the edge of the yard like a war machine getting ready to invade. The neighbors didn't help their case either. That same morning, they blocked not one but two spots, claiming they were unloading groceries, though they carried nothing but a single bag of boutique coffee and a tiny potted plant they complained was too expensive for this neighborhood. Grandpa walked past them slowly, as if greeting royalty. "Morning," he said. The man, still in his robe, snorted. "Something wrong, old-timer." Grandpa studied the crooked car, the blocked spots, the arrogance dripping from the man's tone. "Nope," he said calmly. "Just making sure you're comfortable." "Comfortable? We live here," the woman snapped. "So do we," Grandpa replied. Then he smiled, not happily, but like someone who had made up his mind. When he got back to the porch, he turned to Dad and said quietly, "Fuel me up." Dad blinked. "Fuel what?" "The tractor. Today." Dad hesitated. "Are you sure?" Grandpa didn't blink. "They don't listen to words. They'll listen to steel." Mom overheard and sighed. "Dad, please, don't make things worse." Grandpa put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Honey, you deserve to come home without crying. I'm not making it worse. I'm making it fair." Later that afternoon, while the neighbors were gone, Grandpa took a walk around their car, inspecting the space like a detective. He knelt, measured the width, eyeballed the distance between lines, and even checked the asphalt like a craftsman planning a project. I asked, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" He grinned. "Studying the battlefield. Tomorrow morning, the tractor claims its throne." And that night, the entire house felt electric, buzzing with anticipation. Dad polished the tractor headlights. Mom baked a pie, her stress ritual. I kept peeking at the window, waiting for the moment the neighbors left the spot open again. Grandpa went to bed early, wearing that same smirk, the one that meant someone else's peaceful week was about to end. And when the neighbors pulled out for work at 6 a.m., tires squealing like they owned the asphalt, Grandpa stood up, lifted his hat, and said the words that would start the greatest parking battle our neighborhood had ever seen. "It's showtime." At 6:07 a.m., the entire neighborhood woke up to a sound none of them had heard in years, a deep, thunderous engine growling like a steel beast rising from hibernation. Windows slid open. Curtains twitched. Birds scattered from the trees. Grandpa rolled out from the side yard on his old red Massey Ferguson tractor like a general riding into battle. The sun caught the hood just right, making the faded paint glow like armor. He didn't speed. He didn't rush. He moved with slow, deliberate confidence, every meter forward its own announcement. Dad stood on the porch, arms crossed, nodding like a proud accomplice. Mom covered her mouth, torn between panic and laughter. I recorded everything, because I knew the world needed to see this masterpiece someday. Grandpa aligned the tractor with Spot 37B, checking his angle with the precision of a pilot landing a jet. He pulled forward, then slowly adjusted sideways, the massive tires gripping the asphalt with a deep crunch. Finally, with one perfectly executed reverse, he settled the tractor right in the center of the spot, dead center. Perfect fit. Impossible to move. The bucket on the front was lowered just enough to prevent anything from hooking underneath. The tractor itself weighed more than a pickup truck and sat like a bright red monument to revenge. Grandpa then pulled out a heavy padlock and locked the steering wheel in place. He stepped down, brushed dust off his jeans, and announced, "Parking secured." Our neighbors returned at 5:41 p.m. sharp. Their sedan pulled into the lot, music blasting, the woman laughing loudly at something on her phone, until she saw it. The brake lights flashed. The car jerked to a stop. Both doors flew open in horror. What is that?" the man yelled. The woman held her hands up like she was witnessing a crime scene. "Is that even legal? It looks like a farm animal." Grandpa, who had anticipated the moment, was already sitting in his rocking chair with a glass of lemonade. He raised the glass politely. "Evening, da." The couple stormed toward him. "Move it now," the man barked. "No," Grandpa said lightly. "No," the woman screeched. "You can't park that here. It's ugly." Grandpa shrugged. "Still fits between the lines better than your car ever did." The woman's jaw dropped so fast I thought it might hit the ground. The HOA president arrived next, summoned by a frantic, hyperventilating phone call from the neighbors. He marched toward us, clipboard in hand, puffing himself up like a small bird pretending to be an eagle. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. Grandpa reached behind him and pulled out his own copy of the HOA rulebook, the very same one the president had weaponized against everyone except his friends. He flipped it open and pointed. Section 5.4, any vehicle is permitted within the boundaries of its assigned space, so long as it does not obstruct fire lanes or sidewalks. He gestured to the tractor, perfectly inside the lines. "Looks fine to me." The president sputtered. "Well, this isn't what we meant." "Then maybe you should have written what you meant," Grandpa said. Meanwhile, the neighbors were losing their minds. The man kept trying to argue that the tractor was unsafe, unsightly, and an act of war. The woman yelled, "This is a family community, not a farm." Grandpa nodded. "Exactly. So stop treating it like your private ranch where you can take anything you want." The neighbors tried begging next. "Please, just move it. We won't park in your spot again." But Grandpa just leaned back in his chair. "Oh, I know you won't. But the tractor's comfortable. I think I'll let it stay a while." The couple stormed off and came back 20 minutes later with cones, bright orange construction cones. They placed them around the tractor, as if they were claiming the area around it too. Dad snorted. "What are they doing? Marking territory?" Apparently so, because the neighbors grabbed tape and tied cones together around the tractor, creating a crooked makeshift barrier. Grandpa walked over, looked at the cones, then looked at them. "You know tape can't move a tractor, right?" The man scowled. "It's symbolic." Grandpa kicked one cone lightly, sending it rolling. "So is this." More neighbors came out now, gathering in small clusters, whispering, laughing. Some were pretending to walk their dogs just to watch. The entire complex felt like it was attending a live show. Then came the best part. At around 7:30, the couple tried to call a tow truck. The tow truck arrived, took one look at the tractor, then at Grandpa's legal paperwork, and said, "Nope. Not touching that. Not my funeral." He drove away laughing. The neighbors sputtered and stumped back inside, swearing under their breath. Grandpa walked back to the porch, sat down, and raised his lemonade again. "I could get used to this view," he said, admiring the giant red tractor sitting proudly in the spot they stole for weeks. That night, the couple kept peeking out their blinds, checking if the tractor was still there. It was. And Grandpa smiled each time. By the second day, the tractor became a neighborhood celebrity. Kids asked to take pictures with it. Adults complimented Grandpa's parking skills. Someone even hung a tiny flag on the tractor's rear light that said justice. By the third day, the neighbors stopped leaving their apartment altogether. Their sedan sat pitifully in the overflow lot far down the street, sun beating on its roof. By the fourth day, The HOA president sent an email begging Grandpa to resolve the conflict peacefully. Grandpa replied, "I'll move it after a week. Don't rush me." By the 5th day, all the neighbors were rooting for him. By the 6th, even Mom admitted, "I have never slept so peacefully." And by the 7th day, the couple finally cracked. They knocked on our door at 7 a.m., not yelling, not demanding, just exhausted, embarrassed, and completely defeated. By the time the week hit its midpoint, the entire neighborhood had chosen sides, and not a single soul stood with the couple. What started as petty parking drama had evolved into a full-blown community spectacle. Every morning, people emerged with coffee cups to admire the tractor like it was some historic monument. Kids pointed at it with awe. Older residents patted Grandpa on the back like he had done something heroic. The couple hated every second of it. They tried pretending it didn't bother them, but everyone noticed how they walked past the tractor without looking at it, stiff, angry, as if the machine personally insulted their ancestors. They parked far down the street, carrying groceries in multiple trips, muttering to themselves the entire way. Their voices carried across the courtyard at night, frustration, embarrassment, and, most deliciously, defeat. But embarrassment wasn't enough for them. On day 4, they escalated. At noon, they marched outside armed with their phones, circling the tractor like detectives at a crime scene. "Get the bucket," the woman hissed. "The bucket?" the man asked. She pointed up at the tractor's front loader. "We need pictures. Evidence. We'll send everything to the HOA. They're going to find these people. They can't get away with this." They took 100 pictures, close-ups, wide shots, angles no one ever needed to see. They crouched, squinted, zoomed, and even filmed dramatic voice-over videos as if documenting a global crisis. "This is an illegal vehicle," the woman said in a shaky, dramatic tone. Her husband added, "This violates every rule of civilized living." A neighbor walking by with his dog overheard and laughed so hard he had to stop walking. Within an hour, the HOA group email exploded with dramatic complaints from the couple. They listed the tractor as a safety hazard, a noise disturbance, an environmental threat, a visual assault. Yes, they actually wrote that. They even claimed Grandpa threatened them with it, an outright lie. But Grandpa had receipts. For 3 weeks he'd quietly been documenting their behavior, photos of their car in our spot, timestamps, emails, videos of them ripping notes, even a recording of the man bragging to another neighbor that rules don't apply to us. Dad helped him compile everything into a neat little folder titled Evidence Against the Clowns, and Grandpa attached it to his calm, devastating HOA reply. "Please see attached documentation regarding ongoing harassment and violations from Units 12A. Tractor is legally parked in our assigned space. Thank you." That email spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Someone leaked screenshots. People whispered in groups. And suddenly, the couple's reputation collapsed harder than their taped cones. But there was more. On day 5, an older resident, Mrs. Langley, who had lived there for 16 years, approached us while Grandpa was oiling the tractor. "I heard about the trouble those two caused you," she said. "I should have spoken up earlier." Grandpa looked up. "Trouble? Oh yes," she said. "They've been hogging community resources since the day they moved in. Took over the laundry room every Sunday. Pushed people away from the shared barbecue pit. Yelled at children for playing too loudly. And the HOA never did a thing." Mom frowned. Why would the HOA ignore all that? Mrs. Langley lowered her voice. "Because the vice president is their friend. They go golfing together. He covers for them." It all made perfect sense now. The ignored complaints. The "we'll look into it" emails. The total lack of action. The system wasn't broken, the system was rigged. Grandpa nodded slowly, wiping grease from his hands. "Good to know. Thank you, Mrs. Langley grinned. "If you need signatures for a petition, I'll be the first." That afternoon, while the couple tried to stake out the courtyard like spies, a group of neighbors gathered around Grandpa, casually sharing their own stories. One man described how the couple tried reserving the mailroom for private package sorting. Another said they loudly complained about too many kids existing. Someone else revealed they once left their car parked halfway across a sidewalk for hours, refusing to move it because they didn't feel like it. The couple didn't notice the shift at first, the sideways glances, the shaking heads, the people who stepped aside rather than greet them. But when they did, their confusion turned to panic. "Why is everyone staring?" the woman hissed. "Because of the tractor," the man whispered. "It's turning them against us." "It's a parking spot," she snapped. "No," he said, shoulders sinking. "It's pride. They think we're the bad guys." She scoffed but didn't argue. That evening, around 8:30 p.m., their frustration boiled over. They walked toward the tractor carrying bright orange cones again, this time even more determined. They placed cones around the tractor. Then they added caution tape. Then a laminated sign that read, "Do not approach. Hazardous machinery. HOA investigation in progress." Grandpa walked up behind them and cleared his throat. "You know," he said, "if you spent this much effort following the rules, you wouldn't be in this mess." The woman spun around. "We're calling the police." "Please do," Grandpa replied. "I have some things I'd love to show them." 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. The couple rushed to them. "That thing is illegal. It's a weapon. It's harassment. It's terrifying our dog." They didn't even have a dog. The officers inspected the tractor, inspected the parking lines, looked at the rulebook Grandpa handed them, watched the videos he had saved. Then one officer turned to the couple and said the most beautiful sentence I've ever heard. "He's not breaking any laws. But based on the evidence, you two have been violating your HOA agreement for weeks." The couple went silent. The officers gave the neighbors a polite but firm lecture, suggested they stop escalating, and left. The couple stood frozen, embarrassed beyond repair, while Grandpa walked past them, patting the tractor like a loyal old friend. By day 7, the couple's defeat wasn't just visible, it was complete. Their pride had collapsed. Their arrogance had evaporated. Their social credit in the neighborhood had died a public death. And early that morning, for the first time ever, they knocked on our door, not to yell, but to apologize. The knock came early in the morning, a soft, hesitant tap that sounded nothing like the angry pounding we'd grown used to. Mom opened the door slowly, half expecting another confrontation. But there they were, the couple, standing side by side, shoulders slumped, eyes puffy from a long night of arguing or crying or both. For the first time since they moved in, neither looked smug. The woman swallowed hard before speaking. We wanted to talk." Her husband nodded stiffly, staring at his shoes. "We're sorry. We shouldn't have taken your spot. Any of the times. It was wrong." The apology hung in the air, fragile and trembling, like it might blow away if someone breathed too hard. Grandpa stepped forward from behind Mom, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Why now?" he asked. "Not angry. Just direct." The man sighed shakily. "Because everyone hates us," he admitted. "They all think we're terrible. They're avoiding us," the woman added quietly. "People move away when we walk outside. They take pictures of us. They glare." Mom felt a flicker of sympathy, tiny but real. "Well," she said gently, "that's what happens when you hurt people." "We know," the woman whispered. "We've been thinking about it all night. We want to make things right. Please, can you move the tractor? We promise, we'll never touch your spot again." Grandpa looked at them for a long moment, reading their faces like a seasoned judge analyzing defendants. Then he nodded once. "All right," he said. "I accept your apology." The couple exhaled in relief. "But," Grandpa added with a tiny smirk, "I'll move it when I'm ready. I said a week. It's been 6 days. One more won't kill anyone." The couple froze, unsure whether he was joking. He wasn't. When they left, defeated but calmer than before, Grandpa turned to us and shrugged. "I said 7 days. And I'm a man of my word. The rest of the day felt like the calm after a storm. People wandered outside more freely now, walking by the tractor like it was an old friend they couldn't help admiring. Someone hung a small "We love Grandpa" note on the bucket. Someone else placed a tiny plastic cowboy figure on the tractor's hood. It was becoming part of the landscape. Around noon, a few residents approached Grandpa. "Thank you for standing up for everyone," Mrs. Langley said, patting his arm. "You made us feel like we're not powerless." A younger guy added, "Seriously, that tractor is the best thing that's ever happened to this complex." Grandpa just chuckled. "All I did was park." But to everyone else, he had done much more. He had challenged the favoritism, the arrogance, the entitlement that had been rotting through the community long before the parking war even began. He had done what no one else dared to do. By evening, the HOA vice president, the couple's powerful friend, quietly stepped down. He didn't send a message or hold a meeting. A simple email appeared in everyone's inbox. "Effective immediately, I am resigning due to personal reasons." Everyone knew the real reason. The screenshots, the favoritism, the community pressure. The tractor didn't just occupy a parking space, it triggered a political shift in the entire HOA. At sunset, Grandpa decided it was time. He walked out to the tractor wearing his brightest red cap, like he was preparing for a parade. "All right," he announced to no one and everyone, "let's give the neighbors their spot back." A small audience gathered instantly, kids on scooters, parents with iced tea, old folks pulling up lawn chairs. It felt like the final chapter of a long-running neighborhood series. Grandpa climbed into the tractor, adjusted his seat, and turned the key. The engine growled to life, louder and prouder than ever before. The crowd cheered like he'd won a championship. But he didn't just pull out of the spot. No. He did a slow, majestic victory lap around the entire parking lot. People clapped. Someone whistled. Someone yelled, "King Grandpa!" A toddler waved like saluting a hero. The couple peeked from behind their curtains, faces pale, unsure whether to wave or hide. They chose hide. Grandpa finally parked the tractor back behind our house, dusted his jeans off, and said, "Well, justice served." Dad shook his head, smiling. "Dad, you're unbelievable." Mom hugged him tight. "Thank you," she whispered. "You protected us." He patted her hand. "Family first." The next day, the couple timidly approached Mom. They held a store-bought pie, cheap and awkward-looking, but the gesture was sincere. "We really are sorry," the woman said, voice lower than before. "We acted entitled. You didn't deserve that." Mom accepted it with a polite smile. "Thank you," she said. "We accept your apology. Let's all move forward." And they did. The neighbors never stole our spot again. They parked in their own space, quietly, respectfully, sometimes glancing at our house with a mix of caution and newfound humility. The HOA rewrote several rules over the next few weeks: clearer enforcement, straightforward penalties, no favoritism allowed. Meetings became fairer. Residents felt heard again. And Grandpa? He became a community legend. People still stop him to ask about the tractor. Some request selfies. Kids imitate him with toy tractors in the courtyard. He always laughs and says, "I didn't do anything special. I just parked." But everyone knows the truth. He didn't just park a tractor. He parked justice. He parked dignity. He parked a message no one would forget. And even now, whenever Mom pulls into our rightful spot, tired, quiet, relieved, she smiles a little at the memory. Because she knows no one in the entire world will ever dare steal 37B again. Not when Grandpa owns a tractor.